Numerous people have been stabbed following clashes at a rally outside the Capitol building in Sacramento, California.
Stand up! Get up! Get back! Get back! Go to the pole! Get back! Get back!
Caleb Maupin has the latest on the violent clashes.
The California State Capitol building is on lockdown, from what we understand. People are in the basement, and the whole building is on high alert. What took place is a new far-right organization called the Traditionalist Workers' Party. They were having a demonstration at the California State Capitol, and a group of local anti-fascists also had a demonstration denouncing them. Now, the two rallies took place, and both rallies had ended, and people were leaving the state capitol, and all of a sudden, fighting broke out. At this point, 5 people are in the hospital. 6 people have reportedly been injured. It was a stabbing, from what we can tell, people on both sides seem to have been injured. There seem to have been both anti-fascists and members of the Traditionalist Workers' Party who have been injured. It's not clear how the fighting started, but at this point, people are in critical condition at local hospitals. So this is quite a serious situation. Now, we know this fits into a string of incidents that have been taking place across the country. Just 4 months earlier in California, there was a clash between the far right-wing Ku Klux Klan organization and other anti-fascists who came out to oppose them and to protest them. And we know that around the country there have been confrontations at the rallies of candidate Donald Trump. Many anti-fascist protesters consider Donald Trump to be their opponent and their enemy, and clashes have taken place outside of his rallies. So all across the United States, we're seeing rising instability and clashes between far-right individuals, people opposed to immigration and raising kind of traditionalist and far-right messages, and people in the United States who call themselves anti-fascists and object to these kind of views being spread. This is part of a pattern of taking place, rising instability and clashes between the far left and the far right here in the United States.
Earlier, we spoke to Esteban Hernandez from the Answer Coalition, who was there when the most violent clashes broke out, and he claims they were attacked by fascists.
Police were very trying hard to get the fascist right-wingers to have their demonstration. So there was a police line, preventing our forces, the anti-racists, from, pushing back on the fascists. So every now and then, at a corner of the Capitol building, different fascists would just kind of pop out. So there would be like 2 fascists coming out of, a different corner trying to get onto the Capitol grounds. And when they came up to the protest line of the protesters, our movement, they started violently attacking our supporters. They started violently attacking, beating up. One of the people who came with us today was knocked on the ground. They kicked him repeatedly, and some people were stabbed, in fact. So
we had the chance to hear from both sides when we spoke to Matthew Heimbach, the chairman of the far-right Traditionalist Worker Party, and he said counter-protesters were the first to attack.
We were attacked by a mob that outnumbered us 8-1 with people that had baseball bats, knives, bottles. They actually slashed one of our members' arms and hit his artery and other horrific things. And they were chanting, "Kill the Nazis, kill the fascists," as they had weapons in their hands, as they were swinging them at us, as they were trying to attack our members. So from every count, and this comes from law enforcement too, who of course didn't arrest or detain any of our members for good reason, because we were the ones who were attacked by people that had weapons and were doing, saying that they were going to kill us. This is, attempted and premeditated murder attempts that they were trying to do, because they talked about this online for weeks. Online, that they had to be able to not just protest us, but do everything that they can to stop us, and they brought weapons. So they should be facing attempted murder charges, but of course they won't be, because the radical left generally gets a pass here in America.
The Traditionalist Worker Party is an American organization often linked to white supremacy. The group was created to defend faith and protect people from corrupt politicians and oligarchs. The party also claims it protects working families and helps improve their living conditions. And we can talk to Richard Becker from the Answer Coalition now, who was at the scene shortly after the stabbing. Sir, thank you for joining the program. What was happening when you got to the protest site?
Well, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who came out, and mostly, I have to say, young people who came out. And they were African American, Latino, Asian, Native American, and white. And they were united, young women and men, everyone together, united against these fascists who are preaching hate, whose preaching of hate leads to violence and to violent crimes and murder, particularly directed against people of color, also LGBT people. So, you know, people are justifiably angry about this. This is a newly formed organization, but it's really just a reconstitution of the old neo-Nazi and Ku Klux Klan organizations, which have been so deadly to humanity in the United States and all over the world. And what we saw today was the stabbing of several people, several of the anti-fascist demonstrators. The fascists came, who were probably outnumbered 15-1, I would say. They came prepared for violence, prepared to stab people. And they felt, because of what happened in Anaheim a few months ago, when the Ku Klux Klan members stabbed people and were not charged, and only the counter demonstrators, the anti-fascist demonstrators, were charged, that gave a green light to the fascists to bring deadly weapons into the demonstration and feel that they could use them without having to worry about any consequences.
We've been able to hear from both sides in the clashes, and both are accusing each other of starting the violence. What have you seen?
Well, what I saw was people on the ground who had been stabbed by fascists. One of our members from the Answer Coalition, a young African-American man, was severely kicked and pepper sprayed when he was on the ground. These are inherently violent organizations. The neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan have always been inherently violent organizations, and their violence is triggered and also accelerated by people like Trump, whose message of hate against Muslims, against Mexicans, against people of color in general, his denigration of women, that all contributes. And all of these fascist organizations are saying so. They say so when they talk to reporters, that Trump is the best thing that's happened to them. And it's the Trump message of hate and violence that he has propagated that is giving a boost to these organizations and making them even more dangerous.
We've been receiving some conflicting information regarding the amount of people injured. What have you seen? How many people injured did you see, and from which side?
The people I saw that were injured were two. All three of them were young African-American men. Two of them were stabbed, and one was kicked and beaten severely. I've heard the reports also that as many as 7 people have been stabbed. I think there are varying reports that are out there, but certainly it was a highly dangerous situation. And I think one made more dangerous by the police protection that is given to these fascists, and the fact that as I said, the Anaheim demonstrators who stabbed people and had impunity, that has encouraged the violence even more.
You just mentioned police, and could you tell us how police forces who were there at the scene let the stabbings happen?
Well, I didn't actually see the stabbings. I came upon the scene right after the people were on the ground. They had been stabbed. But this immense expenditure of funds to protect these Nazis and Klan, that, you know, there were hundreds and hundreds of police on bicycles, on horses, on foot, in armored vehicles and patrol cars, in order to provide a way for these preachers of hate to be able, of hate and racism and violence, to be able to give their message out and to try to recruit people to their cause.
Do you think that the attack might have been planned ahead?
I think that the so-called Traditionalist Workers' Party and the skinheads and the other neo-Nazis and Klan, they're all small organizations, they came together. I think they came prepared to carry out violence. I saw one of their members earlier on, one of their activists, come in with a very big, he's a big guy, and he came in with a Nazi flag, and he had a very big stick, and he was trying to provoke people away from the main demonstration. And when people began to condemn him and chant against him, he took this long stick, which was a very heavy stick, and started swinging and hitting people. And people responded by defending themselves at that point.
Mr. Becker, thank you for finding the time and answering our questions. This was Richard Becker from Answer Coalition.
Thank you.
Though up to 7 people were stabbed, no arrests were reportedly made. Gerald Horn, author and historian, guesses how police avoided more victims.
Well, the only thing unusual about this violence is that it was not accompanied by gunshots. I think that we are in such a state of lamentable affairs in the United States that we're probably on the verge of celebrating the fact that only people were stabbed and not shot. Imagine what would have happened if, as usually the case, there had been automatic weapons available at that rally.
The thing that struck me about this Sacramento event, I didn't see any reports in the mainstream media about any arrests being made. I just saw police standing around, taking photos and video, not arresting anyone, when apparently people are stabbing each other. It's quite extraordinary, and it makes me wonder how authentic this clash was.